Welcome everyone to our Crushing It in Aesthetics expert interview series. After founding and running one of the largest and most respected medical aesthetics training institutes in the country, we've noticed that the learning and growing doesn't stop at graduation. This Crushing It in Aesthetics expert interview series is specifically designed to cater to the needs of those starting in aesthetics practice, a med spa, as well as practice managers and providers. So, are you ready? We're about to go on a wild ride as we unpack the science behind crushing it in aesthetics and in life, one expert interview at a time. Welcome everybody to Crushing It in Aesthetics. I am Louis Silberman, the owner of both National Laser Institute and Louology. This is our expert interviews on how to crush it in aesthetics, where we're meeting with the top men and women of amazing companies out there with amazing new products and services. And the reason we're doing this is we have so many people we talk to, nurses and doctors and estheticians, that want to know what's out there and want to know what they can add to their practice and how to get to the next level and make more money. So today our guest is the CEO of Evolus, which is an amazing company. And David, is your last name pronounced Moatazedi?
Moatazedi, yeah.
Yeah. It probably took me 3 years to figure that one out. So David, before we get started, if you could be so kind, just to give a little bit of your background, because I met you back in the Allergan days when you were there, but if you could give a little bit of background of kind of, even before Allergan, what your world was like, how you stepped in the Allergan world, how you evolved, and kind of then went to Evolus.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. And like you, I'm equally excited about this category of aesthetics and looking forward to the conversation. My background in terms of academically, I was chemistry undergrad, and after I graduated, spent a few years in the workplace before I went to business school. But I've basically built my entire career in both dermatology and aesthetics. And I've worked for large pharma companies like Novartis in sales and sales leadership. And then, as you pointed out, I spent the majority of my working years at Allergan, worked on the only aesthetic product they had when I joined the company, that was Botox, and then launched brands like Juvederm fillers in the US, and then had positions of increasing responsibility, culminating in running the aesthetic business for that company. And then I had the opportunity to build a different type of company, a company focused purely on the cash pay space. We call ourselves a performance beauty company, and that's Evolus. And so we are now, I've been with the company for a little over 4 years, and we've had incredible success with the launch of our first product, which is a neurotoxin by the name of Jeuveau in the US. I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for those out there that don't understand the whole process of taking a company public, I know in this world of aesthetics, a lot of companies acquire products from Europe or Asia, and a lot of them develop products. Was Jeuveau something that your team acquired or developed, and where was it from?
Great. Yeah, so this company was founded a little over 12 years ago, and by a group of R&D executives that traveled the world and identified this technology with a partner in Korea named Daewoo. Daewoo manufactured a neurotoxin for Korea and wanted to build out their presence outside of the local Korean market. What we brought to the table was the ability to, one, help them build a brand new manufacturing plant for the rest of the world that would achieve FDA approval, which they subsequently did, and also the ability to develop this product, put it through the clinical trials, and lead that, not just in the US, but in Europe. As a matter of fact, we now have approval in Canada. We launched several years ago. We just launched in the UK. I flew back from the UK just a week ago. That's our first market in Europe, but we have approval in all 31 markets there. And wow, we're going to enter those markets over the course of the next number of months. So it's an exciting time with the company right now.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Just out of curiosity, because I'm not in the IPO game, for the time that your company submitted the paper to FDA to get the approval and actually getting the approval and going public, how long was that process?
Yeah, so it took the company less than 5 years to get from the point of finalizing the agreement with our partner Daewoo and getting both the manufacturing side approved and getting US FDA approval. So that was a significant achievement. And to date, it's the fastest that any drug companies had approval for a neurotoxin around the world. So a lot of credit goes to our head of R&D, who's Rui Avelar, and his team, because they really have done a brilliant job. They have a lot of expertise in this area. They've developed a lot of the bigger aesthetic products around the industry that are widely used today.
That's exciting. And I know you get asked this question all the time, but if you like, we train thousands and thousands of nurses and nurse practitioners and physician assistants and doctors, and they always ask me, okay, Louis, you've got Botox and you've got Dysport, you got Jeuveau, and you got Xeomin. They always ask me, Louis, what's the point of difference to Jeuveau? And what's your typical answer when somebody says, well, what's the point of difference to Botox, for example?
Yeah, so I'd say three things. The first is the advantage of being the latest to market is that we took the same 900 kilodalton molecule that is the gold standard in the US today, but we put it through a brand new manufacturing process. And that results in a product we believe has extremely high purity. And that delivers a unique outcome. And every one of the neurotoxins that injectors use around the country are a bit different. It's like they all have their own unique personalities. And what we hear consistently about Jeuveau is that it provides a more precise, it's a more precise product, which gives injectors the ability to do some things differently with the product. So we've also put it to the test. That's the last piece. And we're the first company to do a phase 3 head-to-head study versus the market leader. So not only do we have a new manufacturing process that provides unique attributes, but you can see how the product performs in head-to-head studies versus the market leader, which gives injectors a lot of confidence, and which probably explains why we've been the fastest growing neurotoxin in the US for 2 consecutive years.
Yeah. So over the years before Jeuveau came out, I'd always have my injectors come to me and they'd say, let's say they got Botox at their practice that they're thinking of, this is the past years before you guys are around, they're thinking of like switching gears to a Dysport or Xeomin or something else, but they're a little nervous because, gosh, different dilution, is there a different way to inject? So I know the answer, but I'd love you to kind of tell the world, if a nurse injector is out there and she's got Botox in practice, wants to add Jeuveau or switch to Jeuveau, what's the transition? Do you inject it the exact same way, or is there a variation of how you inject Botox versus Jeuveau?
Sure. Well, it's a 900 kilodalton molecule, which means scientifically it's identical. Now, the difference, as I pointed out earlier, is in the manufacturing process, which in the end means clinically you have a 100-unit vial, just as you do with the market leader. The reconstitution is identical, and the clinical trial was designed with the same 5 injection points in the glabellar area as the market leader. So from that standpoint, clearly there's more similarities than differences. Now, there is some nuances, of course, as I talked about earlier. Every product has a unique personality clinically. And so we do offer training just to ensure that injectors understand how to optimize the effect with Jeuveau. But the dosing and the glabellar and the injection points were identical in both studies, whether you compare us to the market leader.
So it's a really easy transition for nurses and PAs, doctors to go from Botox to Jeuveau. Literally, they can learn in minutes, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. That's a big selling point. Now, I know there's recent news lately about this new neurotoxin called Daxxify on the marketplace, and they're claiming it has this longer duration, and all these other ones are probably coming to the market soon. Like in the next couple of years, how many neurotoxins do you predict will probably be in America?
Sure. Well, let's look back in time, right? The market leader entered this market over 20 years ago. And here we are 20 years later, and there's only 5 products approved. So I think for injectors, you're not going to see this market go from 5 to 10 products anytime in the near future. Don't hold your breath. Is it likely that there could be 1, maybe 2 products over the next 5 to 10 years? Possibly. But certainly you're not going to see a big proliferation of neurotoxins. And I think that's great in the sense that it takes time to learn these products and how they all work. But in the end, having choices is great for an injector. Trialing the different toxins and understanding what makes them unique and where they fit into your practice is an important part of this. And of course, we try to contribute to that. We've positioned this product differently, not just in how it performs, but targeting a younger demographic. We know that this younger generation of consumers is looking for a product that's different than what their parents used. And I think what we've tried to do is build an edgy brand, a modern brand, not just in the way that it's manufactured, but the way that it communicates to the consumer. And it really has built a stronghold in this younger demographic. As a matter of fact, almost 40% of our users are in that millennial or younger age now. And we believe that's going to represent the majority of users in the whole category over the next 2 to 3 years. So it really is a brand we're building that'll be a household name, and one that will be provocative for that younger generation to think about.
Yeah, being a marketing guy over the years, I've been in the marketing and sales business and primarily online marketing since 1997. One thing I've noticed about your company, you guys have done a really good job. In fact, excuse the expression, but I feel like you've been kicking ass over Allergan, Galderma, and Xeomin over your digital marketing strategies, like are really strong as far as what are you guys doing on a digital aspect that's kind of unique, different, kind of latest, greatest,
Yeah. So we've been edgy from the outset in terms of how we design this company. We have a digital tech team that is our engineers, and they're helping us with the architecture of this company so that the branding, the look and feel of the company is really on the cutting edge of beauty companies, forget the pharmaceutical space that we compete in. The second is we design all of our own creative in-house. So our creative head came from the beauty category, had no links to the aesthetic channel or any pharmaceutical products. And the first thing he saw was just an opportunity to make these products more relevant. If you look at it from a consumer lens, right? Take a younger consumer who's never been treated before. She looks at this category and she thinks, wow, how much does it cost? Who do I go see? How do I do this? And what we've tried to do is eliminate a lot of those barriers by making it more accessible to her. We did, as an example, with our practices, we've made injectors the hero. We put up over 1,500 billboards. These are faces of injectors on billboards all around the country with unique numbers that they can call. So these consumers, when they're driving by and they see an ad, they see the injector within a radius of where they live that could give them the treatment. Trying to eliminate some of these barriers. We're doing it digitally too, and we're invoking a lot more energy into the brand, just making it a lot more fun. Again, this is not your mother's Botox, and we're not linked to therapeutic. It's not a reimbursed product. And let's be honest about it. This younger generation, they view this as a quick 15-minute in-office beauty procedure. They want to get in, they want to get out. And our brand is designed to make it feel like it's such an easy process and a brand that they want to be a part of.
Yeah, and I've noticed also, it's interesting, the last couple of years, ever since social media has gotten so big, and of course it's the younger millennials, generation on social media, that kind of fits hand in hand with where you guys are going, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of that's right.
Regarding market share, back in the day, before Evolus was around, I remember we had conversations in the past. I'd ask you guys questions like, how much market share did Allergan have versus Galderma and Zeman? If I remember correctly, did Allergan used to have like 80% market share and like Galderma was like 15%, Zeman 5%? Was it something like that, or back in the day? Or
that sounds about right. Market shares are always tough to come by because when you have private companies, they don't necessarily report their revenue. So you rely on third-party sources. But I think your memory is pretty close to what I think folks thought it was.
And what's your guys' goal in the years to come, whether it's 3 years, 5 years down the road? Where do you envision? What's the goal for hitting market share for you guys?
Yeah, so we've talked about growth, and because we're a public company, I can only speak to what we've guided to. This year, as an example, our business will grow roughly 50%, and we've guided to revenue of 150 million on the higher end. And so again, that puts us 2 years consecutively as one of the fastest growing neurotoxins. And when you think about market share as an example, we think this category is growing somewhere around 15 or 20% on the high end, and we're going to grow at 50%. So 2.5 times the market. So we're quickly gaining a lot of share, and that doesn't seem to be slowing. I think as injectors are realizing that, number one, we have an excellent product that delivers great outcomes, but we're also doing it in a way that supports the practice through co-branded marketing, digital advertising, provocative branding for that younger generation. We've become a compelling proposition to partner with. And in the end, look, this, practices are like small businesses. We started as a small business. This company had zero in revenue just a few years ago. We're slowly building it up. And so every account matters, our relationships matter. And we really want to build this brand with the injectors and their practices. And so I think that has made us a little bit unique. And we're able to do that because we're a beauty company. We're not linked on the therapeutic side to reimbursement. So there's certain things we can engage with around the customers, like advertising, that our competitive set can't engage in.
And being that you're a publicly traded company, I'm not sure how the rules work, but are you guys allowed to talk about things in the pipeline, things you're working on, maybe acquiring or developing fillers or things like that? Is that like an open conversation in the market, or?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, our pipeline's really exciting. On one hand, with Jeuveau, we're in phase 2 now with an extra strength dose of Jeuveau. So what happens is currently the approved dose in the glabellar area is 20 units. When you double that dose, what happens with the product? And that's the extra strength. And I think understanding how dose affects both longevity and where it fits with patients is interesting. And we expect to have results from our phase 2 study available early next year. So look forward to sharing that with you. The second is we just licensed in a new technology from a company that has unique biomaterials that they've partnered with 3D printing. And we think this gets us more into the regenerative space, which we think is very interesting. It's early stage. We haven't disclosed the details of this R&D program, but we just signed this deal, and we look forward to sharing more as over the coming quarters around our progress on the development of it.
Yeah, when people speak of regenerative cosmetic medicine, would you say they're referring to things like the PRPs or the exosomes of the world, that kind of concept, or?
Yeah, it's the body's natural ability to regenerate itself is really what they're talking about. And then from there, it's just a question of what modalities could be used so that the body does continue to build and heal and rebuild its own, whether it's tissue, it's cells, or other ways of the body regenerating.
Yeah. I remember, David, back in the day, 18 years ago, when I first started buying Botox, I think I was paying $385 a unit. And now I think it's up to $620 or whatever it is now. And what's kind of, I mean, it's a great brand, but what's kind of hard as a entrepreneur is like the profit margins are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and it's becoming tougher. And I'm sure a lot of the appeal to a lot of like new nurses and docs going in the field is like, okay, I'm going to buy Botox for, let's say, $6 a unit. I'm just rounding off, $6 a unit. I can buy, let's say I can get Jeuveau for less money let's say I can get the range of $4 a unit. And that's $2 a unit. If a person gets 50 units as a provider, they can make an extra $100. No, nobody's getting rich of $100. But if you're seeing 10 clients, patients a day, holy moly, that's $1,000 a day of extra gross profit. That gets really intriguing. Would you say that's a big selling point for a lot of providers out there?
Yeah, looking at your bottom line is absolutely critical. I mean, look, if you open a medical practice, your goal is to add more injectors, potentially add more facilities, continue investing and building long-term growth. The way to do that is to ensure that every procedure you're doing is profitable. And if you look at the different procedures that are offered in aesthetics, the example you just used of the number one procedure in aesthetics, and you have the opportunity to improve the profitability profile of it and deliver a fantastic outcome to the consumer. I think that's the opportunity we see, is that because we're not linked to reimbursement, we don't have to raise our prices because the government's willing to pay for it on the therapeutic side. We see it as an opportunity that through a partnership is, if we can give you greater profitability, you're going to keep reinvesting back into this market. If you reinvest back into this market, we're going to grow as a result of your growth. And I think that partnership, that focus together, in addition to our investment in media and advertising in partnership with the practice, creates a very different type of relationship. And that's something I'm really proud of, because I think when we walk in the door or I partner with the practice, I like to think of it as, this is really a true win-win. You know exactly how we're successful if you are, and vice versa, versus us continuing to gain at your expense.
Right. Last question for you. And by the way, congratulations on your success. I think you got such a great story. And, I love talking to my kids about your story, because my son's always saying, should I get an MBA? Should I not? How do I get to be a CEO of a company? And I always refer them to people like you, who have kind of like worked their butt off and gone through the chain and just done a great job. And I mean, dreams are possible for anybody out there. And I love that. So congratulations on all the great things you're doing. Right now, as we're speaking, I'm in my headquarters in Scottsdale, Arizona. In the building, we're training 27 injectors right now. Out of the 27 injectors, I think there's 24 nurses, NPs, PAs, and 3 doctors and nurses. In Dallas, as I speak, we're training about another 30 more. So right now there's 60 people that I'm going to go talk to tomorrow. And they're going to ask me questions. Hey, Louis, I'm going to start a practice. And if I don't want to overwhelm myself with 4 neurotoxins, I'm just going to start with 1. If they were asking you that question, what might you say to them of why they should start with Jeuveau over a Botox or Dysport or something else?
Sure. Well, the number one thing is understand your demographic. If you look at the demographics in the US, the millennial generation and younger, today they represent about 1/3 of users in the category. Over the next 3 years, they're going to represent the majority. So the fastest growing segment by far is that younger generation. So if you're setting up a practice, focusing on that group and understanding what their wants and needs are is absolutely critical to your long-term success. That's first and foremost. The second is, then you want to look for partners that can help you build your business around that generation. Our company was built from the ground up. Our brand messaging was designed from the ground up for that younger generation. So when you bring on a brand like Jeuveau, it's very appealing to her. She looks at our brand, she gravitates to it. We've built even our consumer loyalty program. It's text-based. She gets $40 instantly. She doesn't earn it off her next treatment. She doesn't need to enroll like these loyalty programs for airlines. It's simple. It's the way she does things in her day-to-day routine. She expects that from brands, and that's what we offer her. But then also, in addition to that, you talked about profitability. If you're opening a practice, you have to look at your bottom line from day one. There isn't this magical day where you can look at your bottom line because then it matters. It matters from the outset. So we also improve the profitability. And then lastly, of course, if you're starting a practice, we all know advertising, getting your name out there in the community is a very important part of it. We've built digital marketing and co-branded media that's directly tied to your purchasing. The more you purchase from us, the more we reinvest in your local geography with you being the injector, your face on that ad unit to drive consumers into that office. And so we've designed this company to fuel the next generation of growth for injectors and for consumers. And to me, that's a very compelling value proposition, considering you have the gold standard 900 kilodalton molecule in a brand new manufacturing process. And I think we've lined up our interests with injectors that want to grow their practice, and that we believe is the winning strategy.
You mentioned one thing which stuck in my mind. I know everybody's got their rewards programs and things like that, and it's kind of difficult. It's kind of headaches and too many steps for people. But could you explain again with the $40 credit how that works? Because it's pretty simple.
Yeah. So a consumer simply just texts Evolus rewards, and she gets a unique code. That unique code's given to the injector, and the $40 is given to that injector directly on their account. So every injector that purchases from Evolus just downloads an Evolus app on your iPhone. That Evolus app, you can pay your bills, you can order product, and you can engage in our consumer loyalty program. So it's all in one place. You don't need to call a customer service group, and you don't need to debate what our pricing is. It's all transparent. And your bills, they're all right there as well. There's no rebates that get back to you 6 months or 12 months later. You don't have to guess what your price is. It's all right there, and it's all immediate. And I think that makes it really nice for a new practice, because you don't have to guess what the guy down the street is paying. We're happy to share with you what your pricing would be at each level and what we're willing to give you back. And I think that level of transparency is something that I think practices should expect, but because it hasn't been done that way, many didn't know that it was even possible.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, I just want to tell the audience out there that over 18 years, we've used a lot of neurotoxins, and I've got all the best injectors in the world that train for me. And when Jeuveau first came out, I had no opinion. I didn't know. It was new. So I asked, 20, 30 people, hey, do me a favor, try this head to head with Botox and give me your 2 cents. David, it was 100% unanimous that they loved your product. And they said, oh my gosh, yes, this is amazing. I think I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So I think the feedback is really, really strong for you guys, which is exciting to see,
That's great to hear. I appreciate you giving us a try, and I hope the injectors who get a chance to listen to this will give us an opportunity to service you, and look forward to that opportunity.
All right. Thanks for your time, David. This has been awesome. Appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Louis. All right.
All right. Have a good day.